Hi, welcome back. So we are going to look at the cell size being limited. Actually, the cell size, when we say it is limited, we mean that the cell grows up to a specific limit or specified limit and then it will stop there. It will not continue. So a cell actually has upper and lower limits. So if cells like they are too small, they could not contain all the necessary organelles and molecules. For instance, okay? And a cell with too few mitochondria, for example, would not have enough energy to live. It would not have enough energy to live, nor can cells grow beyond a certain size, even if surrounded by plenty of nutrients. So cells cannot grow beyond a certain size. Cells cannot grow beyond a certain size, even if they are surrounded by nutrients. Surrounded by nutrients. They will always have a lower and upper limit. By a lower and upper limit here, we mean that it cannot grow very small, neither can it grow very large. So the upper limit on cell size is due to the ratio of cell's surface area to volume. That is what brings about this need for a cell actually to have an upper limit. So the upper limit on cell size is due to the upper limit on cell size is due, it's actually due to cell surface area to volume, to the ratio of cell surface area to volume. So the cell surface area to volume determines actually how big a cell will grow. So why is this so? Remember that a cell actually needs many substances within itself. It needs oxygen, it needs nutrients, it needs waste to be removed across the cell membrane or the surface of the cell. So these materials to be transported in adequate amounts and with adequate speed to keep the inside of the cell functioning, of course, there must be a way of actually maintaining the surface area to volume ratio. There should be a way of maintaining the cell surface area to volume ratio. So as for example, when a cell increases, its volume increases faster. As a cell increases, as a cell increases, that is in size, its volume increases faster. Its volume increases faster. So the volume will increase faster than you might imagine. So because the volume increases faster than its area, then this brings about a problem. Faster than its surface area. So it will actually increase more than its surface area. So this brings about the imbalance. So if we look at the figure here, it will be easy for us to understand this. We are saying here that the figure 1.3 ratio of surface area to volume ratio in cells. So as a cell grows, its volume increases more rapidly than its surface area. So when the surface area to volume ratio is too small, the cell cannot move materials into and out of the cell at a sufficient rate or in sufficient quantities. So because the cell cannot move materials into and out of the cell at a sufficient rate or in sufficient quantities, this brings about a big problem. So the further the size increases, results to further increase in need of maybe speed of moving material. So let's look at this small one. When the cell is small in size, the cell here is measured in meters, or I mean centimeters. So here it is 6. If you take the surface area, you will find that the surface area is 6. Actually, this is not in centimeters because cells are very small. So when the unit here is the surface area, would actually, the volume is 1 because volume is length times width times the height. So the volume will actually be 1. Length times width times number of sides. We have the length times width, which is 1. The number of sides are 6. That is the surface area. So the surface area is 6. The volume is 1. The ratio is 6 to 1. Here, the surface area is 24. The volume is 8. So if we make a ratio, we will find that the ratio is now 3 to 1. And as it increases in size, you can see the surface area also increases, but the volume also increases even more. So that the ratio actually, you can see now, is 1 to 2, which is half. From 6.1, I mean 1 to 6, it has reached 2 to 1. So some cells, however, must be large. We know this. We know that some cells must be large in size. But which cells are these? That is what now some cells, like for example, the neurons, need to be large. Some cells, a neuron running Some cells need to be large. For example, some cells need to be large. Some cells need to be large. For example, a neuron running down a giraffe's neck to its legs may be several meters long, for instance. But it's not shaped like a cube or a sphere. So instead, it is extremely long and thin. So this structure gives the neuron a large surface area with a relative small increase in volume. So actually the shape of the cell, the shape of the cell determines its rate, its ratio of cell surface area to volume ratio. Cell surface area to volume. The reason is that it will increase in the surface area, but relatively it increases small in volume. So to maintain a stable cell, growth and division must be coordinated. To maintain a stable cell, growth and division must be coordinated. It must be coordinated. Sorry. Coordinated. So if a cell more than doubles its size before dividing, then the daughter cells would be larger than the original cells. Imagine this. Think about the cell dividing when it is double its size. The daughter cells would be larger than the original cell. Let's make a picture here. So we are having, maybe this is a cell. Then it doesn't divide until when it grows larger. So when it grows larger, if it will divide, then the daughter cells will also be more large in size. That is what we are meaning. So this is the original cell. These are the daughter cells. So if this happens, each generation, cells would quickly become too large to live. Cells would become too large to live. If this happens every generation, cells would become too large to live. So because of this, the cells have to have an upper limit in terms of growth. So similarly, if a cell did not double its size before dividing, the daughter cells would be smaller than the original cell. If this happens, each generation, cells would quickly be too small to live. Now let's take another picture here. Now this was the first picture. Now you have another picture where you are having a big cell, a small cell producing smaller cells. These ones also end up producing smaller cells, and their generation produces smaller cells. Then this would be a big problem. This would be a big problem. So we are meaning that the cells actually should but remain stable in terms of size. They should remain stable in terms of size rather than being changing alternatively. So if, for example, someone asked you, which has larger surface area to volume ratio, a tennis ball or a soccer ball? So if you take the two of them, one being a tennis ball and the other one being a soccer ball, which one would have a larger surface area? If we go back to the picture that we had here, you will see that actually the one with larger surface area would be the one with larger surface area, would be the one that the one with larger surface area would be the small one. Or so if you have the two balls, one being small, if you look at the surface area to volume ratio, the question is which has larger ratio of surface area to volume, then it would be the smaller ball and not the larger one. Because as the size increases, the surface area to volume will actually reduce. So the soccer ball would have a smaller surface area to volume in comparison to the tennis ball. So in the next unit, we will be looking at the formative assessment.